Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. And another heavyweight news and notes mashup video today, starting with Anthony Joshua and Jermaine Franklin. So it does appear that we're closing in on an April 1st fight between the pair. So we now have BoxingScene.com, respected publication. It says it has confirmed that Franklin and former heavyweight champion Joshua have agreed terms for an April 1st bout at the O2 in London. It notes that the Daily Mail had first reported that fight being set. So no, this doesn't seem to be some sort of April Fool's joke, and I'm waiting for official confirmation before saying too much more, so we'll wait for the press release. But it does appear, after the recent reporting, and you've had Jermaine Franklin saying that there's going to be a big announcement soon, that this fight is going to happen. Eddie Hearn had also said there's a very good chance that it could be Jermaine Franklin, and it appears that could be the case. The unified champion Oleksandr Usyk has taken aim at Tyson Fury, saying, "Fury, you talk about greatness in boxing. At the same time you say, give me a lot of money. Greatness in boxing is not determined by money. Greatness comes from a victorious path. You say that I avoid you, although I never have, and in fact, I even come to you. I'm ready to box with you even without any prize money." Oleksandr Usyk's statement made on social media. And that's kind of interesting because we've been hearing from Bob Arum that the Usyk camp wants 50-50 should the fight take place in the UK. So clearly money is a consideration for at least Usyk's team. But we're expecting an announcement in the next little while if that fight is going ahead. One, if it's going to be in the Middle East, or two, if it's going to be in the UK. So we'll have to see where things go with that. Meanwhile, the former WBC champion Deontay Wilder, a little bit salty when asked about who would win between Tyson Fury and Oleksandr Usyk. Speaking to Eli Sekbak, he said, "I don't know. That's a 50-50 fight. Depends on who's going to cheat the hardest. That's what it is. It depends on who's going to cheat the hardest." So poor Deontay Wilder on the outside looking in, beaten up and taken out by Tyson Fury some time ago, and not in line for undisputed, as he once was in the driving seat and in pole position to get that fight, now seemingly only asked to comment on it. The Swedish heavyweight Otto Wallin has spoken ahead of his fight this weekend with a journeyman, discussing his training. So he's fighting Friday, January 27. He'll be facing Jermaine Franklin. So talking about his training, he says, "I feel great heading into this fight. My training has been going great and I've done a lot of good sparring leading up to this fight. I'm excited to be fighting in New Hampshire and can't wait to step into the ring. I can't overlook Franklin, who is a good fighter, but I don't think he's on my level. I know that I can compete and win against any heavyweight in the world, and I'll make sure I show why on Friday night." Then you've got Wallin's manager, Zach Levin, saying Otto trains his tail off twice a day, 6 days a week, virtually year-round. He cannot wait to prove himself against the very best in the world. While he waits for that opportunity to present itself, he is preparing for Franklin like a consummate professional that he is. He is grinding and not looking past Franklin. On January 27, Otto's world-class skills will be on full display, and the fans in attendance will know they have been treated to something different. His promoter, Dmitry Salita, also says Otto Wallin is the most avoided and feared fighter in the heavyweight division. Wow. He is staying active, sharp, and improving with every fight. Fights like this show how much of a committed fighter Otto really is. Instead of waiting for around for a big fight, he is honing his craft. We are looking forward to an impressive performance in a big 2023 ahead. Sorry, got to weigh in there. Those are some delusional comments from Dmitry Salita. Otto Wallin is not one of the most avoided and feared heavyweights in the heavyweight division. Otto Wallin has actually been sitting around, waiting around, doing nothing, and not really fighting anyone, and demanding a big fight. Salita is saying the exact opposite, and it's just not true. Wallin has not fought high-class opposition in some time. One of the last fights he had was Kamil Sokolowski, his first fight in the UK, and he looked decidedly average. So what's going to happen if he goes in here against Holguin and puts up a performance where he just looks so-so? This opponent is not the sort of fight anyway, regardless of the performance, to show that Wallin is ready for anything other than a bigger fight, but not necessarily a world-level fight. Otto Wallin has not fought anyone of note for some considerable time, and that's just a fact. But they need to get him out just to keep his rankings going, because let's face it, he hasn't fought in basically a year. His manager, his promoter have not provided him the best opportunities and the best stay busy, stay active fights that he could have had. Let's face it, they've roped into this fight because they need to maintain the rankings. Because if he ends up dropping out of the rankings, well, then he's falling further down the depth chart and the phone will continue to ring even less. So, circling back to some Lenier Pero news, so he'd announced he'd be fighting on February 11th, and now we know who it is. So I wasn't sure at the time who the opponent is, but it has been confirmed as Viktor Vykhryst, otherwise known as Viktor Faust. So he is Ukrainian, fights generally out of Germany, has appeared on a few different PBC cards. There is a link up between ECB Boxing and PBC. You might recall that fight with Iago Kaladze, which was just an absolute back and forth war. Was it 5 knockdowns in 2 rounds, something like that? And this is a really good fight. Both these guys are unbeaten. Both these guys have talent. Pero has been in some good fights like the one against Giovanni Brujon, and as I mentioned, we've seen Faust / Vykhryst against the likes of Iago Kaladze. So I'm looking forward to this one. This is actually pretty ambitious matchmaking for both of them at this stage of their career. And in terms of the comments, so Pero says, I'm really looking forward to making my Showtime debut on February 11. Ever since I started boxing, I've been working towards my goal of becoming the first Cuban heavyweight champion of the world. Faust is a good opponent, and this is by far the biggest fight of my career. A victory will skyrocket my career and put me in a great position. I'm going to seize this moment and bring home a victory for my people in Cuba. Not sure it will skyrocket things, because Viktor Vykhryst / Faust is a prospect himself. It will, potentially put him to that fringe contender type level where he's sort of on the bubble of being a prospect or not. But apart from that, it doesn't make him a top contender or anything like that. Largely, Viktor Vykhryst / Faust is largely unproven. But obviously, we've seen him in some good fights. But then there's been others where, he's looked okay and nothing more. In terms of Vykhryst, he says, this is a great opportunity for me to show off my talents in the US. I'm especially happy to be back against a great opponent like Pero. He was a good amateur, and I know we'll both be very confident heading into this fight. I'm going to win and show everyone that I'm ready to do everything possible to reach my goal and become a world champion. Well, I like the ambition. This is decent matchmaking. This really is a good early crossroads fight, because for the loser, they're going to have to do a mini rebuild, and it probably delays their aspirations by 12 to 18 months. But in terms of the winner, it really does propel themselves onto a decent fringe level contender type fight. And rounding up this heavyweight news and notes mashup video, Martin Bakole honoured in his home country of Congo. So he says of this award that he's received, son of the country. Drop a comment loud and often, hit like, hit subscribe, follow me on Twitter, boxing_squared. I'm out.